La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast. You know what day it is. Inner Wealth Podcast with David Liz. So manifest the greater this. And things all good cause I say it is. Invest in your inner wealth. Real generational wealth is mental health. It's an inside game, no toxicity. Let's talk and more listening. Ladies and gentlemen, and now introducing David McCullar, Elizabeth Holstra, host of the Inner Wealth Podcast. Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
All right, everyone, welcome back to Inner Wealth Podcast. My name is David McCullar, the founder and CEO of Inception, the first mental health gym. And today I have a special guest with me, Dr. Grace.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
I'm from Detroit, West Side.
Oh, well, you got to say what up, though, then.
What up, though?
What up, though? That's all right. Detroit, West Side.
Yeah.
Where'd you go to high school?
Northwest Side. First I went to Chaos.
Okay.
And then that January, our spot opened up at Renaissance. So instead of catching that long way downtown to catch the bus,
Yeah.
I was like, I need to be closer to home.
Okay. So you graduated from Renaissance?
Yes, I did.
I went to St. Martin de Porres, which is right around the way from Renaissance. My
Right.
mom went to Cass Tech as well. So
Mm-hmm.
so how did you get into the medical profession? What took you down that rabbit hole?
What took me down the rabbit hole of the medical profession, I was part of a group that was called the Medical Explorers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of dating myself, but it was kind of like the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, but it was a group of young individuals that were interested in the medical field.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our field trips was down to Detroit Receiving, and I met a black male anesthesiologist who said he put people to sleep for $250,000. And I was like, ooh, I could put people to sleep for $250,000. And it's been history. But about the time I got into medical school and about to graduate from medical school, that field was saturated. So I
Wow.
was like, I need to do something. And I loved everything. So family practice allows you to do everything. The logo is from the womb to the tomb. So you can deliver
Right.
and you can see everybody up until the elderly, both male and female. So that's
So
what's the
was
choice.
that a how was or I should say how was that seeing a black doctor at that time for you?
I had never seen a black doctor ever. Even when my mom took me to the doctor, they were all of other persuasions.
Hmm.
So to see that, it really struck a chord with me. It was like, okay, so there are people that look like me that practice medicine. So
Mhm.
it was amazing.
Yeah, I had a black doctor growing up, pediatrician. Yeah, so I was exposed to that black doctor. I had a black dentist. And I think my mom, and I'll have her on the show at some point, she strategically did that, to know I had people who looked like me who were assisting me, helping me. So when did you actually you actually got into family practice? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So medical school. No, let me back this train up a little bit. Rewind. I was a teen mom. I had my
Okay.
daughter. I got pregnant at 15. Had my daughter at 16, and I was like, oh my goodness. They told me that I wouldn't be able to become a doctor because I was a teen mom. So I purposed within myself that to make my daughter the reason and not my excuse.
Mm.
So I pressed forward. I mean, I had a teacher come to my house to continue my education after I had my daughter. Had no idea that was available.
Mm.
I finished high school on time. Uh, College took a little bit longer. Med school took a little bit longer because I was out doing it as a single mom.
Mom, right.
So once I finished residency, I should say medical school, I took an elective in alternative medicine.
Mm.
And that I was really intrigued about how the body works from a natural perspective, because medical school teach you how the body works, the disease, and the pharmacology,
Mm.
and that's it. I only
Right.
had 2 weeks. I only had 2 weeks of nutrition,
Mm.
And that was it. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
But now when I took the alternative class, it was a whole different world opened up to me, and it always stuck with me. And so decided to become a family practitioner because, like I said, I loved everything.
Hmm.
And in the back of my mind, the holistic approach and managing patients was opened up to me from that elective class.
So, but don't you feel like you were kind of like, how did you have the open mindedness to even understand that, what they're teaching me is only this much, a little bit, even though you took that elective, right, on alternative, like how did you know to buck that? Because you almost bucked the trend. You bucked multiple trends, first of all. So let's talk about the bucking of one. How did you go through being a single mother and having the can-do spirit to know I'm still going to go and be a doctor, even though I'm having a kid?
I think my mom always says to me, "It was always in you." So my mom tells me stories about when I was little in school. She said teachers would pull her aside and say there's something special about her. And I'm not
Mm,
saying this to be braggadocious
right.
or anything like that, but I remember one teacher in elementary school. I remember her name. Her name was Miss Keppel because she lived right around the corner from us.
Mm,
But anyway, she said my mom had a long talk with her, and she said it's something special about her. Always keep her busy, and so I guess God always put in us what He purpose, planned, and designed from the beginning,
I believe that.
and so I can't say it was anything that I did. It was just something that I allowed to be.
Oh, okay, so I would say it that way then too,
Yeah.
because all of us, like you say, all of us have that in us. All of us have that special gift. But sometimes, depending on our environment, we can be very blocked from our
Yes.
purpose. And the
Yes.
trauma, from my understanding, from how I see it, the trauma and the programming is what blocks you. Because if you look outside and look at nature, the programming is already in there. The bees didn't go to bee school to learn how to be bees, right? The
Correct.
birds didn't learn how to form synchronization patterns in the air. It's there, right?
Right.
So you weren't blocked. So your mom was someone, was your mom and dad around or?
Oh, that's a whole nother story. But didn't know my dad.
Okay.
My mom married my stepdad, and
Mm-hmm.
so let's talk about environment for a moment. And I want to be transparent.
Okay.
You can be blocked based
Mm-hmm.
upon your environment, but again, it's something that was in you. I was molested at the age of 2. I
Wow.
could allow that to have been a block. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying?
At the age of 2?
At the age of 2, and so uh, push past that. But again, I knew it was the spiritual part of me that was like, okay, you can overcome that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did it affect my progression as a person? Yes. But that part of me, that drive to obtain, to achieve what I wanted to do was kind of like, um, nah, 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 nah.
Right.
I'm
Right.
just, I mean, this is my first time even processing that. That's what
Okay.
it was. It was like a nah, 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 nah.
You
I'm
wanted
not,
you wanted to show people that that wasn't going to be the death of you.
absolutely.
Right.
And so, um, I was looking back on it, I was bullied.
Mm.
I watch all these programs and I'm like, oh my God, that was so sad about they been, they were bullied. And now even talking to you, it's like, yeah, I was bullied and talked about and
Mm.
everything. And people used to get mad at me because I wouldn't allow them to uh, copy off my
Were
homework.
you were you the smart person in school?
I was the smart person in school.
Okay.
I'll be the first one finished with my stuff and just sitting there looking
Well, I was
around.
the one copying off your homework. I tell you, I didn't
And
want to be there. I need to look at your page.
yeah, so I've had people jump on me and chase me home.
Mm.
Um,
What were you doing? You just too smart. They just didn't like any of your smartness, huh?
I guess not.
But you know what? Growing up, it seems like in black childhood, that's a thing for black kids who are, if you want to call quote unquote smart or quote unquote not, who seem educated and you're getting good grades, and maybe I'm not getting good grades, things of that nature. People envy that.
I guess. But the thing about it, it was like I never really had to study per se.
Mm,
I didn't learn how to study until med school.
okay.
When I was in undergrad, everything was blue book. You wrote everything out. So whatever was in my head, whatever I saw, I wrote out. So I did really well. And so when I got to medical school, this is how I describe medical school. Medical school, imagine a fire hydrant on full blast, and all you got to do is get a little sip.
But
Okay.
they say you only by the time you graduate, you can validate this or invalidate it. By the time you graduate from medical school, you only retain probably 30% of the information.
I guess, but it was to me it was all a game. It's
Yeah.
like we did pathology like for a month or 2 months, and then it was the whole entire book. But then they only ask us 30 questions.
Do you feel like of course we see you had the can do spirit and there's something in you, you just moving and you're using it as fuel to show people, Michael Jordan has really did that. He take a lot of people's things they would say about him and man, he would use that. And I can say I've been like that in my life as well. So you use that, but the other end is understanding and you've seen these things, right? About again, they only teaching you so much and you're open to this. How much moral injury did you suffer by going through medical school and seeing how things the way they were and how you knew that there was probably different ways to solve those problems?
I always, how can I put this? I always was like in the background. It was
Mm-hmm.
not like I was pushed or thrust in the forefront, and maybe that was by design and on purpose.
Mm,
Um, and that probably was part of my trauma
mm.
because even though I was there, I didn't felt like I deserved to be there, if that makes sense.
You were kind of like an outcast.
I
You
felt
felt
like
like
the outcast
were you
being
the only black woman there?
well, most instances, yes, because our class was one of the first largest classes at Wayne State University. It was 65 African Americans that were in the class at the time. And so it was always I have to prove myself.
Mm,
Um, even though that little girl was like, how did I get here? It was like, do I really belong? Do I really
mm-hmm,
fit? Those were all those voices that I had to contend with at the same time trying to perform.
mm,
And so I never challenged the system or bucked the system. I'm going to use the system. And once I get where I need to be, then I
mm.
can call the shots. And
Right.
then I can say how I'm going to treat my patients and manage my patients. And I think that was the undergirding entrepreneur spirit
Mm.
until I got around other entrepreneurs that allowed me to understand that I can be in charge.
So I guess that's a good thing about being an outcast though, and having that trauma. It kind of keeps you you want to be accepted, but at the same time not being accepted gives you an advantage not to be indoctrinated.
Right, exactly. So I think that's what happened. I had no idea that I would own my own business. That was
Mm,
never something that I really thought in my head. This is what I thought. I thought I was going to get a job. I
mm.
thought I would probably work for a group or I'll be in the hospital and, just go to work every day, retire.
So did you ever do any of that?
For no, not really. I did have jobs working for other people,
Mm,
but they were just stepping stones in learning how not to be. Now that I look back on it, and I had got to the point where I was pushed to the place where I am because I'm not a political person.
mm.
I'm not a person who. Um, Somebody had told me this. I'll never forget this. They were like, "You need to learn how to play the game." I was like, "What?" And I was never a game player.
Mm.
What you see is what you get.
Right.
And so I was never in the political part of taking care of people. I wanted to take care of people. And so there's politics that are behind the scenes. And it's like, that's not taking care of people, you know. you know,
So you were sick care versus real truly health care. Is that what you're saying?
of course, in the United States, healthcare is a misnomer. The the profitability of health is being unhealthy.
Right.
So if everyone was healthy,
Then there'd be no
no
money.
money.
Right. But and people may think of right now you can go online and you can go down a rabbit hole of every conspiracy, right? But you don't need to go down a rabbit hole of every conspiracy when you can just follow money,
Right.
right? You can just
Absolutely.
follow capitalism, right?
Right.
Like, listen, it's no money in people being well.
That's what they try to tell you.
Right. But you can't patent too
No.
natural things. And most
No.
people don't understand that every drug mimics something in nature.
Absolutely.
It all comes from the Amazon rainforest.
Absolutely. Like the Joxin. That was the first drug that I can remember to this day. It's from a plant,
Hmm.
and it's for the heart. But we learned about it in medical school that this lady would use it to help people that had swollen ankles and swollen legs and had heart problems.
Mm.
And so,
Was it an anti-inflammatory?
no, it works at the level of the heart. And so what it does, it helps with the conduction of the heart.
Okay.
But it was formerly from the Foxgrove plant. And so things like that, like you said, you can't patent nature, but every year doing holistic medicine, there are laws and lobbyists that avidly uh, want things to stop. So the next thing that the industry is fighting against is bioidentical hormones.
Hormones, yeah.
Yeah, so before that, I want to say it was, I can't think of it right now, but every year there's always been an issue with the natural part of helping people to get better. And so we have to come up with new ways and be ingenious in regards to helping people who wants to do the holistic approach.
Yeah. Which is very sad. Even in a business that I'm doing, I've always been like, okay, like trying to watch over my shoulder. But to be honest with you, I've never placed too much attention on it. I just do what I do, and that's what it is. But I've been in an alternative, space for probably with my parents again going back to 96, 97. But in business for 15 years, and I've seen a lot of stuff in the alternative space that's not good as well. You
Right.
know, there's it on both sides. There are problems, right? And I'm not someone who's a antagonist towards the medical industry. It's like, but we have to move from being dependent to interdependent. I believe that if I go to you as a doctor, I should come in with a wealth of information for you about me. Through who? Me. Because I live here. I,
Right.
I live here.
Yes.
So, Dr. Grace, you should know more about me than me knowing more about me, you know?
That's my philosophy, that you doctors have to learn to listen more to their patients and not what they have been trained to do.
Hmm.
And I have been an advocate. That's how I run my practice. And I do believe that there's a place for pharmacia,
Hmm.
pharmaceuticals, and holistic. And I believe that they should work synergistically together. For every pharmaceutical you take, it depletes the body of something. So why
Right.
not fulfill that depletion? And so I really stay on the side of identifying what those deficiencies are and help the patient become an advocate for themselves to work with me for them to get better. And
Hmm.
so I can't see lobbyists telling me how to tell my patient to eat. There'll never be a law to say to restrict dietary things.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I try to stay under the radar, so to speak,
Hmm.
with training people to do what is normal, eating right, getting your sleep, drinking water, all of those things
Moving
are
your
normal.
body.
And moving your body, all of
Right.
those things are normal.
Right.
And we have been programmed to think that's abnormal, and only a few, you
Yeah.
follow what I'm
No,
saying? So,
absolutely.
so I want, which drew me to your facility, is my challenge for the last 25 years of being a doctor has been the mindset of people
Yeah.
and how they feel about themselves. And what is non-compliant? We've been taught, like, you tell a patient they need to take their medicine and they're not compliant, so therefore they're non-compliant.
Hmm.
But why are they non-compliant? and I come to the realization is about how the person feels about themselves and the traumas that they have had coming up.
Yeah.
And so now me, the doctor, is saying, okay, you got to take this medicine 3 times a day. You got to do this, you got to do that. And they're like, okay, but right now? Yes, right now. And it's like, it's a process. So even myself, when I needed antibiotics and I tried to take it 3 times a day, I'm like, hey, I'm always missing that afternoon dose, but I expect my patients to do it. So being a patient myself at times and
Mhm.
learning the mindset and the modalities of the mindset of remembering,
Mhm.
incorporating something in my life that wasn't there before,
Mhm.
and the stick-to-itiveness. I even have to self-talk myself now as far as working out. Grace, you don't have 15 minutes, Grace. You
Right.
don't love this is the conversation I have with myself. Grace, you don't love yourself enough to just work out for 15 minutes. What's wrong with you?
Right.
So I force myself through self-love to
Mhm.
make sure that I do what I need to do to be better.
Right.
So, how do you get a person who's been traumatized, who's been abused, who have been even abused in the medical system? I've had people that tell me, Dr. Grace, I've had horrible experiences
Mm.
in the medical industry. And so, how do you get people to view what's good for them in a place where it's really bad for them now?
Well, they have to move out of protection and into growth mindset, because I'm sure you're familiar with Dr. Bruce Lipton, and he talks about this. There's only two modes you can be in. That's growth and that's protection. And trauma shuts your brain down. Your neocortex, you're not processing. So the ADD and the ADHD and all these other symptoms is wrapped up in using your resources to survive from threat. You're stuck in protection. So you've seen it. You've seen people come into Inception. What have some of your clients been like after they've left and they've done some services?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so the patients that I've been bringing to you guys are mostly my chronic pain patients.
Mm-hmm.
So they deal with, I can imagine being in pain every day, all the time, all day long, and even the medications that they're taking is just minimizing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of them are, like you said, in protection, flight or fright mode all the time.
Right.
And so when they come for services, it was like I think I brought in a group of 6. And so when they came in, it was like I was getting services too. One of them was waiting for me until I finished, and it was like, I have to thank you,
Mm.
because it was like such a relief and a release.
Release.
A
Yes.
release. There's a difference between a relief and a release. It was a release
Mm-hmm.
of what was capturing them, that was holding them in their minds as
Yeah.
far as being so, I guess the word being hyped. Um,
You're a
uh,
prisoner of your brain trying to protect you.
Absolutely.
You know.
And so it was really good to see um, that they were able to receive something, and me being a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because most people want to feel like somebody cares about me.
Yeah.
So when you feel like somebody really genuinely cares about you, you can go,
Yeah.
so that it lets the guard down a little bit.
But man, that's for me. That's how I got better.
Yeah.
It's because I needed somebody to nurture me,
Hmm.
and you're nurturing them. You're saying, "Hey, my clients, I need to take you over here
Hmm.
because they trust Dr. Grace. Let me come over here, take them here." So I appreciate you bringing them in there, because we need to get back our resources. And that's just what the problem is. We're stuck.
Yeah.
And now that you expose them to that facility, that people haven't seen stuff like that ever in their life,
No, they haven't.
right? And now that's a huge paradigm shift for them in their belief
Hmm.
about, one, their body being able to heal itself.
Yes. Auto correction.
Because a lot of us don't even feel like our bodies can heal itself.
We're not the same person that we were 120 days ago. Our cells in our body regenerate every 120
How many
days.
days does it take for the stomach to repair itself? I think it's like 7 days.
Yes.
I think total, I think it's around, I can't remember if it's 7 years in total for your whole body to repair itself. But like Deepak Chopra says, if you take a copy and you make a copy of the copy and a copy of the copy, it's cellular degradation,
Right.
basically.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically, it's not the same. That's why you need to have the best copy and keep duplicating the best copy.
Right.
But we're copying poor quality
Right.
of a copy.
Wow. That's true. That is so true.
So again, I'm coming to you looking for you to be able to nurse me and to guide me. And when you do that, now your job becomes a lot easier for them and to say, maybe you need to take this. And now they can go and do it because I've seen, even in myself, and we have somebody in the room who has a story just kind of similar to this, is where, I find myself after I've done my own services for years and I'll go home and start cleaning up. Just out of the blue. Why am I cleaning up? Because now I have energy. I have
Wow.
resources.
Yes.
You telling me to take a pill 3 times a day when I'm so overwhelmed
Mm-hmm.
by the stress. You seen people who hoard?
Mm-hmm.
That's fight or flight response. That's just a manifestation of it,
Wow.
you know? So, yeah, what you're doing and what you're bringing in people is like, that's where I'm saying we have to become interdependent. I want to be interdependent to you, and I want us to be connected and to share. Doesn't mean I don't want, like, again, everybody who comes to Inception, you may have some health issues. You got to go see Dr. Grace. We can't. That's not our job. Our job is to, one, help you find the release.
Yes, absolutely. And I think by my patients coming, and you and I briefly talked about that this past week as well. A lot of people think holistic approach is very expensive and
Mm-hmm.
it's for the wealthy. Don't get me wrong, there's some high end
Yes.
services that are out there
Mm-hmm.
that are deemed for the wealthy because they have the resources to do it. And so by the mindset of thinking expense, they've already talked themselves out finding out. One example, I have a young lady who was a paraplegic, and her wheelchair was the same wheelchair that she got when she got shot. Young lady,
Mm-hmm.
about 15 years ago. So she talked to the wheelchair company, and they were telling her she had to get it custom, and it was going to cost all these thousands of dollars. She already got a power wheelchair. Medicare is not going to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
Blah 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 blah. And she was like, I just need a wheelchair to just spend time with my family. And so I said, well, she said, now I can't afford it. I said, how do you know you can't afford it? Did you research it?
Mm.
So me and her just had this conversation. I said, have you gone online and look?
Right.
And so when I started pulling up stuff and sending her links, she was like, oh my God, I can afford that. And I'm like, but you already know,
Yeah.
but a few minutes ago, before
Right.
you even looked, you couldn't. So the same thing about your services. A lot of people think, well, I can't afford that. How do you know? You didn't even.
Listen, I had these brochures for years, and we're out of brochures now.
Yeah.
But and they had a gloss cover on it, and they're really nice brochures. I had them really. My branding, I've always made sure my branding was like top notch.
Right.
And so a woman I know works for a company, a high-end company. She took the brochures and she took it to her job. And the person took a brochure and was like, and just looked at the brochure and told her, oh, I can't afford this. Didn't even look at the prices in the back, which were, one, my service is $99 for a circuit. But they already psychologically got themselves out of, I can't afford this. But what it really boils down to, we don't have financial issues in our community.
No.
We have resourceful issues. We have mental, emotional issues that block us from seeing the opportunities that exist.
Absolutely.
I saw a guy in Kenya, and he had like an old compact computer, and he was mining with Bitcoin in this hut,
Wow.
right? I saw another guy finding tires and making shoes. Black people, we've always been resourceful,
Mm-hmm.
but we only resourceful about the things that we feel like we that's going to help us be better, which
Right.
is what? The capitalistic mindset of buying a car or having some clothes or having some shoes, and now we glorifying trips and all these different things, but we don't feel good on the inside. Would you rather go to Bali, or would you rather be able to sleep at night?
Wow, that's true.
Which one is it? Because you don't feel safe in your own body.
Right.
Because when you have sleep issues, and we did a whole episode on sleep,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like in your bed, that's the place where you should feel the safest
Right.
because you're laying your head down, and for 8, 9, 10 hours, somebody can come in there and mess with you, but you trust that for 8, 9, 10 hours, you're going to be okay. And a lot of people live in communities. Some people live in communities that their safety is not there. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you live in a community where there's no gunshots outside, your door's locked, nobody ever causing any problems in your neighborhood, and you can't sleep at night, why?
Right.
Because you don't feel safe. Your brain, you're
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmed. And then too, another thing that we're going to transition to is mineral deficiency. So you're into doing like IV therapies. Like why'd you see that as a need for the community?
And the reason why I felt that that was a need is because, like I said, for every medication that you take, it depletes the body of something.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone, because I was doing home visits, that's how I started my business with home visits, going into the homes for the elderly, sick, disabled, and shut in. And I would come in and we would tell them your appointment is, I'm coming, make sure you have all your medications on, so I can document them. I would come in and the table is full of bottles. And I'm like, okay, so for every bottle, they're depleted of something. And I'm like, you take all of this? And I have never met anyone who takes all that medicine and say that I feel good. Not one.
Right.
And so I was like, how can I incorporate this and making my patients feel better? And so I was introduced to a lab that did the deficiencies and allowed for Medicare patients to have it covered. And so I started doing it that route. And I did have some high-end clients as well who wanted to know what their deficiencies were, because don't get me wrong, I have nothing to get multivitamins, but vitamins are supposed to be taken in certain combinations.
Oh, I have a big deal I have a lot against multivitamins. A lot
Yeah,
of them is garbage,
of course.
specifically from like GNC and these companies. They found that a lot of them, because when you go to the bathroom and your urine is bright yellow, you absorb nothing.
Right, absolutely. And so I figure that your body takes what it needs when it needs it, and the rest it doesn't take. So, and then some vitamins taken in the wrong combination cancels each other out.
Yeah.
So, why not find out and target what the deficiency is and just give that?
Mm-hmm.
And so, so I have been doing that for a while now. And so, we do IV infusions. I do IV push
Okay.
because I don't have 30 minutes to give in the home.
Mm-hmm.
I had to keep it moving. And so we would do the infusions based upon the deficiencies and push it. And so insurance companies didn't pay for that, but the insurance companies would pay for the administration, which means an IV.
Right.
And so we would pay out of our pocket or out of that service for the vitamins for them, or charge like a $10, $15 copay for those. And they're in the city, right?
Right.
Because there is a food desert in the inner city. If you go to most people that walk or go to the store, they're going to the corner liquor store, they're going to the corner grocery store. When you go into the grocery store, the smell hits you. And so in combination with the medication that they're taking, they're deficient. So I filled a little bit of the hole, and so they saw difference. They saw a difference in their health, and so it became a way of life for Bathesda. That's what we do. That's how we handle it. And then I'm a real stickler about how you eat. I'm telling people, we're not asking you to spend money that you don't have. We're asking you to redirect those dollars that you know that you're spending for better things.
Okay.
So if you're a smoker, $9.50 a pack,
Right.
That's a lot of money to just be burning up and smoking, actually paying cash money for disease.
You know what change a lot of things for nutrition that we don't even realize, and the data is coming out more and more and more. Eating one meal a day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, think about this, and I say this a lot too. Everything to our convenience is not to our benefit. So if you look back maybe 100 years ago, right?
We weren't eating 5-6 times a day.
We weren't. we were hunters, gatherers,
Right.
farmers.
Right.
And so it was like you walked everywhere. So if I wanted to go to South Florida,
Yeah.
what I would have to wake up in the morning and say, okay, family, we're going to put these backpacks on or get our horse and buggy
Right.
and we're gonna go
Or we gonna walk.
or we're gonna walk.
Right.
So, but we're everywhere we go, we drive,
Mhm.
and so it's like, but it's to our convenience, but has it been to our benefit?
Do you know that I looked up the report on the black spending, and you know what big thing that we spent money on was?
Tell me.
Juice.
Oh yeah, I can believe that. Because I tell people, cause people tell me all the time, Dr. Grace, I drink juice. I said, what kind of juice? Read the label. So I'm an avid teacher on how to read the
Yeah.
labels. And so they're drinking a 16-ounce juice, but their serving
All
is
the
only
sugars,
8.
the sugar, like how many grams of sugar in that thing?
Absolutely. And so they think they're doing a good thing because it's
Mm,
fruit and
right.
all that other kind of thing. Especially with my chronic pain patients, sugar is an enemy for
Yeah.
inflammation.
Yeah.
And so I always say I would challenge Dr. Sabi if he was alive now. He says the root of all disease is
It's mucus.
mucus.
I don't believe. I
I
don't believe that.
no, listen though, mucus is a response
It's a
to
response.
inflammation.
Yes.
And so he probably would change. But
Well, that's what I said on the last show that it's not that I don't think he's not right. He's right in what he's looking at.
right, absolutely.
Like there's layers of it,
Right.
But mucus. So where's inflammation? So we partner with every show. I tell people about this. We partner with Clint Ober, who rediscovered earthing, aka grounding,
Mhm.
and that what he found out is that our bare foot was not supposed to be off the earth.
No.
And because it is off the earth, now we're inflamed even more.
Yes.
So all these chronic health issues is all contributing factors, or is all from being inflamed. And we've
Mhm.
seen some dramatic changes with people just from having them ground.
Absolutely. I have one of my patients who was in an abusive relationship, was shot, and she was left for dead. She's in a
Mm.
wheelchair now. And she would come and she would always, along with her phantom chronic pain, she would always have muscle spasms, and she was in a
Mm.
wheelchair.
hmm
And so I told her, since you've been in that wheelchair, when was the last time your feet touched the earth? And she said, I can't remember. So one summer she had her daughters to take her to the beach,
Mm.
and they would put her feet in the sand,
Wow.
and it stopped the spasms completely.
Yes.
And it was not a peel.
Right.
It was not, anything
Right.
soaking in water or anything
Right.
like that.
Just
And
putting the
just
feet on the
putting her,
ground.
yeah.
Yep.
So this last couple of months with the pandemic and all of that, she hasn't been able to get out. Now the muscle spasms are back. And so I was like, well, when the last time? She said, I haven't been able to go. My daughters haven't been able to take me, So she said this week that she was going to start going back. So that's the question I wanted to ask you. Your facility, does it accommodate people in wheelchairs?
Yes, but at the same time, let's go back on that story again, because
Yes.
again, that partnership that we did with Clint Ober, we
Yes.
have grounding products that bring the grounding into
And
the
to the
home.
home. That's right. You know what? I take that back. I did. Your assistant or your at the clinic. She gave me those
Nina,
links.
she's a
Nina.
Henna support.
Woo
Yep.
woo. Nina did that.
Yep.
Nina, I did. Now that I think of it, I just had my appointment with her
Mhm.
virtually. I sent her those links.
Yes.
So she's really excited about getting those
Yeah.
products, at least
Yep.
the in her home. So yeah, you're right.
So my goal is to get 1 million of our people grounded.
Yes.
That right there would be able. That one simple thing. If we can get the inflammation to at least to douse the flame out of our bodies, out of our brains. Because
Yes.
now they know we have lymphatic cells in our brain, right? And so when you don't get into good sleep cycles, that lymphatic cells and the inflammation causes Alzheimer's, dementia. So now that we can get better night's sleep, a regulated nervous system, that can change our health drastically
Yes.
just in, days. Now we can still go and, it's still more work.
Yes.
That's not it
No,
at
it's
all.
not.
That's not all that there is. I'm never a one-shot pony.
Right, right.
You've been to Inception. You see how many other things we have, and that's not it either. There's more
Right.
to it as well. That's why, we talk about mineralization. So how many of your patients would you say are deficient in minerals and vitamins?
All of them, because they're on some type of medication. So, I example, if you read medication bottles, a lot of them are followed by a mineral for two reasons. Because it helps
I'm sorry, what are they?
minerals, like so I'm just going to use a drug, losartan sodium.
Okay.
Losartan sodium is an what we call an ARB, which helps with no, it's losartan's potassium. So it's an hypertensive. So it's an
Mm.
ARB. So it helps with vasodilation, but potassium does too.
Mm-hmm.
But the losartan not only works synergistically with potassium, but it also depletes the body of the potassium.
Okay.
So they have them in combination together. So a lot of drugs, if you read them, they have minerals attached to them to help them synergistically to work, but it also depletes the body of that same mineral. And so I say that to say for every pharmaceutical drug anybody takes, it depletes the body of something. And all the enzymes in our bodies needs minerals to operate.
Yeah.
And so here you are, people that are taking these pharmaceutical drugs
Mm-hmm.
without replenishing what the body is depleting it of. That's why people say once you start on a medication that you will be on it forever.
Yeah. That's like antibiotics. This destroys your gut flora.
As napalm, it's like it destroys the good and the bad because it
Mm-hmm.
can't distinguish between the
Right.
two. Now, I do believe there is a place for antibiotics, but I
Mm-hmm.
also believe that you need to replenish
Replenish. Yeah.
after you're done. And how
Mhm.
many of us know that and do that?
Right.
And a lot of people don't do that. Even with my patients, if I prescribe an antibiotic, I'm like, okay, you need to do a probiotic after you're done. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but that is not the norm. And then, so I always say, happy gut, happy life. And so, if your
Mm-hmm.
gut is full of bad bacteria,
Yeah.
which is signaling to the brain, hey, I need to stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
And what causes bacteria to stay alive? Everything that we are not supposed to eat, the sugar.
Sugars.
So,
Yeah.
so there is an inner biochemical war that actually taking
Mm-hmm.
place, and people think something is wrong with them. But
Mm-hmm.
no, you really are fighting the biochemistry in your body that's saying the bad bacteria is signaling to the brain, hey, I need sugar.
Right.
I want that donut really bad. Could you eat that donut? And
Right.
then you give
That's
into it.
that's the little critters that's
Yeah.
controlling you that you
Yeah.
don't know.
And people think it's something wrong with them. No,
Mm-hmm.
there's the bad bacteria is releasing biochemistry. It's believe it or not, your gut is connected to your brain.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a dermatome when we're developing fetuses that separates. It goes to make the gut and goes to make the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so they talk to each other.
Yeah.
Have you ever had that gut feeling?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's your
So
intuition.
absolutely. So even when you have a happy gut, your gut also secretes serotonin, which is
Mm-hmm.
the feel good happy hormone. So imagine you
And your
have
immune system is mainly where?
in your gut.
Right.
So if you had all of this bacteria sending all these chemicals to your brain to eat horribly, and then we as the medical community label it as obesity, a lack of discipline,
Mm-hmm.
fat shaming and all of that, instead of
Mm-hmm.
seeing it for what it really is, along with the inflammation process.
It's a chain of trauma.
It's a chain of trauma. So, and that's where your facility comes in regards to resetting. So even though you reset the brain, now this is just me talking, I have no proof of it. I really do believe that at the level of the gut is doing something too, because it's the
Oh no,
same.
absolutely. Because we're
Because it's
talking about your the cranial nerves. You're talking
right.
about in magnosphere, it helps to
Mm-hmm.
get the brain and body. We're talking about the vagal,
Right.
the vagal system. So that's what we're talking about. It runs down through your gut,
Right. Rest and digest.
rest and digest. So
Yes.
that's activating. So absolutely, like I think when people hear brain, they only get stuck brain. This
Mm-hmm.
has a cascading effect. Like we
Right.
have a detox circuit too. So all of those, we're moving systems versus symptoms.
Right.
That's what our facility does. It's just working with the systems to actually support it. We don't do anything. We're just helping your systems to get more space and help it, give it more resources. But that's why I look at a lot of these antidepressants. It's like, well, where's serotonin mostly made up? In your gut.
Oh my God.
But what are you doing? You're altering brain chemistry when it's in the wrong brain.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and that's one of the things that I have been. We also do neurotransmitter testing too,
Okay.
because you know for mental health, they give medications to, mostly all of them are to increase serotonin levels, but you don't know where a person's levels are. So why are you continuously giving this medication if you're not monitoring the
So,
levels?
so you mean to tell me that once I come to you, you're a psychiatrist, and you label me as depressed or ADHD, you never looked at my brain? Is that what you're telling me?
I haven't read any literature where they have. Have you? I
No,
mean,
they
I'm not.
they 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 diagnose based on the DSM-4,
It's
DSM-5.
MRI.
It's just a diagnostic manual where if you come in and you take a survey.
Mm-hmm.
So people always ask us when they come into Inception, where can I look at my results? I say I'm looking at them. You, you're the results. Because if you go to the doctor, you don't ask the doctor, what can you show me the results?
No,
No, you're looking at the results as subjectively.
exactly right.
That's what I'm meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Subjectively. You took a survey. Okay, well, how do you feel now? Like I can show you on the screen that says, "Oh yeah, you should be feeling better," but you don't feel better. No, it's you. Tap in. You got to get in touch with this and understand. Well, how are you feeling? You know.
Right. Nina and I had that conversation because I was like, I want to see my brain scan from when I first started. She was like, no, we
No,
look at you.
right, because then again, I used to do brain mapping
Uh-huh.
before, but that's a very slippery slope.
Okay, I got you.
And it becomes very diagnostic, and we don't want to
Not
be
to
a
be
diagnostic.
Got you.
Is the brain is changing. By the time you looked at that thing, that your brain then changed.
Right.
But the skips, pauses, and interrupts within the music that you listen to with our brain training is the information for your brain.
Right.
That your brain is doing something with it in real time. It's just using that observation theory. Whatever is observed changes.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you go into the mirror and look at yourself, you can see, oh, I had makeup on my teeth. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't know it before. What gave you the awareness? The
Mm-hmm.
mirror.
Right. Absolutely.
So yeah, but I get it though. I know a lot of people, they like to look at that, but we like to get people to the place where subjectively they can, I feel great.
Yes.
Then nothing else matters.
Absolutely. Now, we do actually, for me, all my patients, I go through their labs with them and I explain to them what I'm looking at and where we need to improve. And out of my entire practice, I would say, let's talk about vitamin D deficiency. I have maybe 5 who are therapeutic. That's a lot for only 5 out of a total population of my patients we do labs on.
When you mean therapeutic, what do you mean?
That means it's in a normal range and a good.
Oh, they're out of all of your clients?
Out of all of my clients, especially in the African
Because
American.
our skin.
Melatonin.
Yeah.
We're in Michigan. The
Right.
whole thing. So, I am an avid component of assessing what the deficiencies are and explaining them the right way to take their vitamins, because you can take them, but if you're not taking them right, because vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin, so you need to take it with a good oil or a good fat.
So a lot of them too are doing vitamin D and vitamin K.
Right, vitamin K2.
K2,
So
yeah.
so I do, but I do also have a water soluble vitamin D. I've just been prescribing that. That's in a powder form. I want to see how that works.
Right.
And because it's better absorbed as an isotonic in the gut, so we'll see. So
that's where I was saying the interdependence and the connection, where I would like to have our clients begin to come over to you. And one, I would like to start to do some testing and see how, how the body looks after they're de-stressed.
Right, absolutely.
Because you can't absorb. You don't absorb when your body's stuck in a stress response.
No, because I always think stress is inflammation. So if you're inflamed, how can the cells absorb? They can't.
Right.
They can't.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way.
Wow. So and then doing the testing on the vitamin D, because, during COVID, that was one of the biggest issues with people of color getting COVID, is we were vitamin D deficient.
And passing from it as well. Literature has proven that people that had demise from COVID were vitamin D deficient.
Right.
Period. I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
So, along with what they call the pre-existing conditions,
pre-existing, yeah.
The vitamin D probably was part of the pre-existing condition.
The body can't fight all these other factors, and then it's gonna go fight COVID at the same time. It just, you've been fighting too long. You ever seen people at the end of their life that say, "I'm tired"?
Yes.
It's like the body can't continue repairing at the rate it can't. It doesn't have the energy.
Right.
And what they're showing too, specifically Dr. David Sinclair, who was a researcher out of Harvard doing anti-aging, and they show that actually our NAD levels they decrease after you get to around 40. And
Mm.
NAD is like a precursor to like our ATP production and energy levels.
Right.
So now they're starting to let's see. The thing is, other populations like the white community, they're already researching this stuff on
Right.
longevity and knowing what to
Mm-hmm.
take. We're just starting to understand that
Right.
our health issues is not just you know helped by doing alkaline water
Right.
or whatever. We like to get into these buzz words of things. You ever notice that in our communities? Like we attach to these little fads of things, like it's
Keto.
ke- keto
Yeah.
or just veganism or
Wisdom. Mm-hmm.
any ism.
Ism.
It's not about
Right.
anybody in specific, but any ism.
Right.
Like I said, alkaline water was one. What's the other one with the Dr. Sabi out the seaweed? What is that? Sea moss.
Sea moss.
So a lot of people, and it's like all those things could be good, but
Right.
the thing that's driving all of that, and that's where I come
Mm-hmm.
from, is this.
Absolutely. He's pointing to his head,
I'm
guys.
pointing to my brain.
Yes, his bread. So let me say this too. Is I use this analogy. It's like being in a boat with a hole in it,
Mm-hmm.
and you got this water gushing in, and you got a pot. So all those isms are pots.
Mm-hmm.
Let's patch the hole. That's where the diagnostic stuff comes in at, and what the deficiencies are. Let's patch the hole,
Mm-hmm.
and then let's pour out the water, or we're all just gonna sink.
Right.
And so, being able to understand what the deficiencies are is key, because I can come to Inception and feel better, but if I'm deficient, how do I maintain that serotonin level that I need?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm deficient in certain nutrients, I
Yes.
cannot maintain
Mm-hmm.
the relief that I got, the
Mhm.
release that I got from Inception.
Right.
If I have fight or flight and I came to Inception and I'm relieved now, and I don't have the vitamin C that I need when cortisol levels get high to break down that
Mhm.
cortisol,
Mm-hmm.
once it comes back up, here I am again. So it's very, very important that people understand what their deficient is. How
Mhm.
many people eat lemons? How many people eat oranges? How many people can't because they have allergies, but they need that vitamin C. In certain circuits where you read about certain foods, they have the vitamin C, but they also are inflammatory. So it's like a
Yeah.
vicious
It's a vicious cycle, yeah.
So in order for your body to process and do what it needs to do for autocorrection, you need to definitely know what your deficiencies are.
Yeah. And you gotta treat it like mind, body, spirit
Absolutely.
versus just one thing. I always like to think that when you come to Inception, you're turning the faucet off,
Yes.
but you still gotta take care of the flood.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
still gotta take care of the mess.
Mhm.
And that's when you can walk home and see, look at the mess that I've made. And that's why even mentally, emotionally, a lot of people will walk away, and when they get back home and during the week,
Mm,
they start having a lot of emotions pop up,
right.
a lot of sadness, a lot of grief,
Mhm.
because now they can see, look what I created
Mhm.
around me. Because when you're stuck in those patterns, you act out those patterns, you manifest out those patterns, right? And that's what you got. But that's fine. In order to change, to know better, you got to do better.
Exactly.
So what are some tips that you can give people to maybe who can't get to you or get to me around health and wellness, some stuff that you learned for yourself over the years?
Well, first of all, we're virtual.
Mhm.
So it's not just you coming to the office. I mean, we're global.
Mhm.
I have people that I help as far as India.
Wow.
And so we're global. So
So what do you do for them virtually?
virtually, they log on. We talk about what's going on. A lot of things, the symptoms that they share with me, I can automatically, I've been doing it for a while to say what
Mhm.
they're deficient in.
Mhm.
Anxiety begins with a thought. I mean, it just does. I mean, and that's the holistic approach. We're called, my name of my company is Bathesda Holistic with a W, WHOLE, not holistic, but holistic,
right.
because we do the holistic approach from the spirit, soul, and body. So the tips for myself down through the years, you have to take time to learn who you are. Once you understand who you are and that you have purpose and you learn how to love yourself, then it becomes a lot easier. My challenge has been from the nurturing aspect of being a nurturer. It triggers the person. Why does she care about me? Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I show them through my nurturing that you are valuable. And then once they feel that, then they reflect that. And once they reflect that, they feel that, then they act on it.
Right.
But until someone taps into that part of them, it's a continual virtual cycle. So for me, I had to learn how to love myself. I mean, until I got to that place of Grace, you're worth it. Grace, I love you. Grace, you deserve it. It was always something missing, something broken, something. So that would be my tip of the day. You know, you hear about self-love, self-care, and all of that, but the self-care can't come until you have the self-love.
Yeah, and we're gonna leave on that note, but it's one thing that I've mentioned this in earlier podcasts too. We've always heard that you gotta love yourself, but what does that mean? But really, loving yourself is a very systematic approach.
It is.
Because if you look at the inside of your body, it systematically supports you.
Yes.
And a woman told me, Esther McCormick, she said, David, you got to stop trying to fix yourself. And I didn't understand what that mean until I kept going along my healing journey, because I had to understand that there's nothing wrong with you. Your brain and your body did everything and is doing everything to try to keep you alive. The thing is, we got to move from healthcare to self-care and to self-love and self-support. Till next time, guys.
You've been listening to the Inner Wealth Podcast on EYL with David and Elizabeth. Theme song produced by Be Ready for West Coast Creations. I am Razkaz, reminding you to take action, be proactive, be congruent, get out of the matrix, get your mind right. We've automated mental health at Inception. Join the movement. Inner Wealth Podcast. Inner Wealth Podcast. Inner Wealth Podcast.